thank you for joining us here on Mortal to Mortal. Today I have with me the incredible Sir Gil Ramirez. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. It's going to be exciting. So, for probably the very few that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, a lot of people know me for my blacksmithing ability. I am a huge fan of D&D. I'm a huge fan of metalworking in general. I make steel dice, and that's, I think, what I'm mainly known for.
Neat. Yeah, I like. We'll get into that too with
Hmm.
Critical Role and everything. It's fantastic. um, to start off with the blacksmithing, it seems really interesting and kind of unique, and to me anyway, in this day and age, I don't see or know really. I think you're the only person I know that's a blacksmith. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, what got you into that in the first place?
Well, I'm just like about everyone else has that one cool idea of, oh, I want to be this or that, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, sure, I had the whole astronaut dream. I had the, firefighter dream.
Neat.
But films back in the day kind of ushered me into the fantasy kind of realm thing.
Okay.
And you always see the blacksmithing scenes in films, and you go, well, "That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing?" And a quick Google search shows that yeah, it is in fact a real thing. People still do it. And so I essentially I wanted to try it out one day, and
Ah.
I was 13 years old when I literally just grabbed a piece of steel and a hammer, and I went to town on it. And my father stopped me really, really quickly though, because
Oh.
when you don't have fire, when you're hitting hard metal, it has a really loud ping,
Ah. Okay.
and the entire shop was hearing this, and eventually they complained to my father, and they're like, hey,
Ah.
you know.
Mhm.
So I finished the blade.
Mhm.
It's the crudest blade I've ever made because again I didn't have the proper metal, the proper tools.
Gotcha.
I didn't even quench it, so it's just a piece of mild steel essentially that is in the shape of a blade. But he encouraged me to go and look for classes,
Ah.
and the only time I've ever really the only place I could really find it was either in apprenticeships or large classroom type stuff. So
Mhm.
essentially, in college, when I first found out about metal forming,
Mhm.
a few of the metal forming metal technique classes that they had to offer,
Okay.
that is when I initially, or sorry, yeah, I essentially initially got into it, truly into it,
I see.
learning how to do the proper techniques, how to hold a hammer, how
Ah.
to manipulate the metal, whether it be copper, brass, or steel.
Ah. Okay.
Now, the class was geared more towards jewelry making in
Mhm.
general, and I made a few rings and stuff like that, and that was fun.
Mhm. Hmm.
But there was still something inside me that goes, just try the steel part, and they
Yeah.
didn't necessarily offer that.
Oh, I see.
So so I asked the instructor, I go, well, you have a knife forge in the back. Do you mind if I fire that up?
Mhm.
And he goes, well, I mean, fine.
Neat.
And it took a while for me to gain his trust.
Ah.
And so the funny thing though is that I started making a few little knives and whatnot, still not knowing what I was doing, but I
Mhm.
was making them at least somewhat of a proper way.
I see.
And and I would go buy my own steel and forge it into
Ah.
shape and whatnot. And eventually there was a art gallery, like an exposition, like a demo,
Oh.
for people to display their art piece. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make something for that
Nice.
exact art show.
Okay.
And so I decided to make a 7 foot sword.
Wow.
Now, when you make a 7 foot sword and you're
Mhm.
walking around on campus, you have to be clever about how you transport it.
Mhm.
Because the campus is large, and unfortunately, the art building is kind of in the center. So at first, I started to wrap the steel in like a giant, like a moving cloth, moving blanket.
Oh, okay.
And no one thought about it for a while. But then people started to hear of a guy that was on campus that was
Ah.
making a 7 foot sword. Word spread like wildfire. And
Wow.
one day I was walking, and at this point the blade was pretty much into shape,
Okay.
and it had a cardboard tube around it. But at the
Ah.
very end was sticking out the pointed end.
Okay.
And I neglected to see that or whatever. And the
Ah.
dean caught me,
Oh no.
and he stopped the blacksmithing part of it. Again, there
Ah.
wasn't a class specifically for blacksmithing at the college. It was
Mhm.
just metal forming techniques, jewelry
I
making,
see.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I was not allowed to enter into the show, which really bummed me out.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop me. I decided that, well, at this point I need some kind of avenue to do my art.
Mhm.
And I mean, at the time I was still making rings and brooches
I see.
and I was still making the copper vessels, the artwork part of it.
Okay.
But I wanted to do the bladesmithing portion of it. And luckily, the instructor knew of a blacksmith down in uh, Laguna Beach. It's kind of like a beautiful artisan beach, I guess, if you will.
Ah, okay.
A lot of artists go there and they live there,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's definitely the rich crowd.
I see.
Interesting to see that part of the artists world.
Mhm.
Anyway, he hooked me up with him, and for 3 years
Ah.
I was an apprentice to a master bladesmith.
Wow.
But unfortunately, near the end of the relationship,
Mm.
he was bipolar. So over time,
Mm.
he began to, um, I give him a call, like, hey, are you okay to forge today? He's like, yeah, come on in. And
Mhm.
then, it's a 45-minute drive to his shop.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, he's just like, you know what, Gil, I'm not feeling it. Sorry
Uh.
that you came all the way down here. And I try to cheer him up, like, hey, if I buy you a steak and we just cook it, will that help?
Yeah.
He's like, no, no, Sometimes they would work. Sometimes they'd be like, okay, cool, let's cook. And then even if we didn't
Mhm.
forward, at least it helped them.
Yeah.
I was not necessarily there just for myself. I was there to kind of help him out too. He
Right.
needed friends. He didn't
Mhm.
really have a whole lot of people. He was kind of a recluse, and I tried to bring him out of that shell. Um,
Neat.
but he had a lot of just a lot of mental issues. So
I see.
at one point he pretty much stopped. He moved to
Uh.
Hawaii,
Oh.
but I mean it's a lot better for him. I hope, at least in my mind,
Mhm.
I hope it is.
Mm.
But he kind of became a boyer, basically making bows
Oh.
out of anything.
Wow.
And they're really, really well made. Sometimes they're just carved,
Mhm.
and ornately carved and painted.
Okay.
One of them looks like two snakes eating one egg, and it's really interesting. It's
Wow.
beautiful.
That
Um,
sounds, yeah, amazing.
yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous. So, unfortunately, I had to end that relationship, but
Yeah.
at that point, I was well learned enough to become a journeyman, a
Okay.
journeyman blacksmith. So you have the three stages essentially. You
Mhm.
have the apprenticeship.
Mhm.
Then after you graduate that, after the master goes, all right, cool, you're good to go on your own now.
Okay.
Then you become a journeyman. After
Mhm.
the journeyman, you basically become a master, but you have to be you have to take a few tests for that. You have to
Okay.
be basically judged by your peers
Oh,
on
okay.
your artwork. So it takes a long time.
Wow.
They say that in general, you become a master of a field in about 10 years or so.
Oh, wow.
Not the case in blacksmithing. And in
Oh,
fact,
really?
I will probably never consider myself a blacksmith. Even if
Wow.
I'm 80 years old and I'm still doing this, I will never consider myself a master of the craft because there's
Wow.
always something to learn.
Right.
There's always, I mean, okay, so like in computers, you may have new stuff coming out, right? And so there's
Mhm.
always continuing a giant knowledge base to kind of pull from
Yeah.
because it's new technology.
Yeah.
Now, blacksmithing is an old technology, but even still, there's so much to learn that you will
Wow.
never learn all of it in your entire lifetime.
Wow.
So, I'm essentially a journeyman blacksmith now,
Okay.
and what I do is I am currently at a local museum.
Oh,
I,
all right.
I volunteer my time there to teach
Nice.
children sometimes, to
Oh.
perform weddings,
Oh, really? Cool.
and yeah, it's weird. I'm a wedding blacksmith now, and I have to put
That
that
is
on
cool.
my business card.
Nice.
Never thought I would say that.
Right?
Uh, and
Awesome.
in general, I teach people the craft. So people come in,
Oh,
they take
okay.
classes and whatnot, and on every Saturday, we have different classes depending on the level of the student.
Ah,
You have your
okay.
beginner, you have your advanced, and you have your the guys who have been doing it for a long time.
I see.
And I've been doing it for about 16 years now,
Wow,
and
okay.
it's been an amazing journey every step of the way.
That
Yeah.
sounds incredible. Wow. Neat. I really like how I picture being on that campus or being a teacher there and hearing about a student doing that. Like, I would immediately think that person's going somewhere with that. Like, if they have that level of interest, to invest
Well,
themselves like that.
actually, the kind of feedback I got from it was this kid is going to be a psychopath.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Or
so.
that, yeah.
But all of the art teachers that were that knew about me, that knew what I
Mm,
wanted to do, they were like
yeah,
pushing me. They kept going. They
that's
go
great.
do it. And that's
Yeah.
why he had a he asked his friend to basically mentor me, a guy who
Nice.
doesn't take on apprenticeships. He doesn't
Right.
take on apprentices at all.
Wow.
So that was a really cool gesture on his part, and now I understand why he didn't, but
Right.
I learned a lot. So I
That's
take that going forward.
nice. All right. Now, do you feel that your engineering skills apply to blacksmithing? Does it help?
Definitely, yeah. My engineering skills greatly affected how I perceive metalworking. I was always good at manipulating the metal, whether it be aluminum, steel, copper, all different types of surgical steel, titanium,
Oh,
everything literally
wow.
under the sun. I
Yeah.
have machined. Um,
Wow.
but knowing how the tools, the carbide inserts or the high speed tool skills affect the metal going at certain speeds and the metal turning at certain speeds,
Mm-hmm.
all of that compounded does help.
Okay.
Absolutely. Given a piece of hardened steel, I go, well, this is going to take a long time to forge
Mm-hmm.
because it's hardened. I have to hit
Gotcha.
it harder in order to move it further.
I see.
Um, and so essentially, I take all my knowledge from that and I apply it to my blacksmithing stuff. I also do a little bit of engineering work in addition to the blacksmithing
Ah,
portion.
okay.
So sometimes I have to grind something, and I
Mm-hmm.
know how to grind properly, and have it cool it in the water before it gets too hot. In case of
Ah,
like a hardened tool steel, you don't want to ruin the temper. You don't want to ruin the hardness that comes with it. So
okay.
you have to have that knowledge going into it. You can be taught it. Obviously, you can be hey, by the way, this is how you do that,
Mm,
or you can just have that knowledge kind of come with you, and you go, oh, I already know how to do this. I don't need any kind of
nice.
previous research or that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Huh, really cool. And do you have any space of your own where you can forge these and do this work?
Not, yeah, not right now. I don't have a space because of space issues
Mm-hmm.
within my current home.
I
I
see.
literally only have a small patio. And
Uh,
one thing that is interesting is the EPA cracks down really hard on coal burning.
okay.
And I love burning coal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more comfortable with it.
Okay.
I learned how to do propane forging,
Oh, all right.
and that kind of like air mixture basically, not
Mm-hmm.
hard fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And but the coal is just more natural to me.
Okay.
It I tend to do a lot better with it. I
Okay.
don't know why. I can't really
Hmm.
explain that except for the fact that when you use propane, you get a lot of scale on the top of your metal, which is basically as you're heating up your blade, because you're
Mm-hmm.
forcing air in there, it has oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And oxygen reacting to steel creates an oxide.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Rust is an oxide, but that's basically because of the water ions, basically mixing with the steel ions or the iron ions. Now, in a forged scenario, you have an air mixture that still has air kind of flowing around it. It will
Mm-hmm.
still create an oxide, just a
Okay.
different type of oxide.
Ah.
So that stuff that you see the blacksmith kind of brush off that little
Yeah.
the scale essentially, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is something you have to kind of like watch out for. So
Ah, okay.
in a coal forge, it's easier to maintain, at least in my experience. So it may not
Hmm.
be for everyone, but
Okay.
for me, I tend to do do better and have
Neat.
an easier time at it.
Huh.
Anyway,
That's interesting.
um, because the EPA cracks down so hard on coal burning, you
Mm.
cannot burn coal in the state of California unless you have been grandfathered in. In the case of
Wow.
like a museum or an old, really, really old shop, a shop that has been here, turn of the century, maybe even older than that.
Wow. That's really
But I'm
interesting.
working on it. I am working on my own portable forge that I can take to Ren fairs whenever I start to do
Ah,
the Ren fair circuit.
very neat. Oh, that sounds great. Um, I am a big fan of Ren fairs anyway, and I could just
Oh
picture
yeah,
that stepping up
yeah.
to yeah, blacksmith setup. Uh, are there any works that you've done that you're just absolutely proud of, like your favorites?
Yes, in fact, actually, I have it right here. If you don't mind, let me
Oh,
get it.
yeah, please.
I'm actually going to show this on Tox Machina later on tonight.
Ah, awesome.
But essentially, it is a tanto, a Japanese-styled small blade.
Ah,
Let me
okay. Oh, look at
close
that.
here.
Wow.
Now, what you cannot see, and I'm going to try to have the light glint off of it,
Okay.
but this is made out of cable, elevator cable.
Really?
Yeah, and let me try to see if you can. It's going to be hard, I know. Even a good camera can hardly pick it up. But if you were to actually be here with me, you will
Mm-hmm.
see that there are striations, like little, basically where the
Oh.
fibers have gone through, and I
Mm-hmm.
flattened it out.
Wow.
Um, I have yet to complete this blade because I'm looking for a beautiful green wood,
Mm-hmm.
and there are very few
Okay.
in the world without having to paint them. And I might have to
Oh.
resort to painting it, and that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically on like a mini quest to, whenever I see a green piece of wood, I'll go, okay, that's it, that's the one, and I'll buy
Yeah.
it.
Nice.
But yeah, it took that one took me a very long time. That was my second true blade.
Oh, really?
So I've made other blades since then. They
Mm-hmm.
weren't really that great. After taking the apprenticeship with the master bladesmith, I made first a fighter knife about that
Oh.
long,
Okay.
and then I went right into that. I learned a lot of stuff in between that, but as far as knives go, that was my second true knife, and
Wow.
I can't wait till I complete it. But I'm not going to complete it until I get the proper. I want everything to be really
Yeah.
special.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Do it justice, get it just right.
right.
Absolutely.
Because I did such a good job on it, and I'm like, well, I can't just put anything on there. I can't just put, there's some beautiful woods out there. There's, purple
Mm-hmm.
heart, there's spalated maple, and they look great on knives like that. But I want the green one. I need the green one, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going
Neat.
to do a little bit of inlay, gold inlay work too. So
Oh,
all that.
beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
So, viewers, we're going to have Gil's info in the About section on social media. So, follow him if you're not already so you can, get caught up whenever the right wood
Yeah.
reveals itself to Gil.
Yes. Yes.
um, one of your other works are the dice that you forge. They seem
Hmm.
very popular, and I've even seen them used on Geek and Sundry's Critical Role show.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell us a little bit about the different types that you make?
Sure. Yeah. Most notably is the D20. Obviously, people seem to be in love with that, and
Yeah.
obviously, I am a fan of my own work. I
Hmm.
love that my personal D20 I keep on me all the time.
Oh,
It's kind of
nice.
become my little good luck charm, if you will.
Awesome.
Um, and yeah, so I have essentially made all different types of dice rolls, of the
Okay.
dice, styles. So you have your D20, you have your D12s, your D10s with a percentile in there, a
Ah.
D8. D6s abound everywhere. I've got a
Hmm.
bunch of boxes full of them,
Neat.
hoping people would take them. Um,
Yeah.
and most notably, though, out of all that is the D4
Oh, okay.
because it's really hard to forge a tetrahedral shape. I
Oh,
have to
okay.
forge it in a prism. And so
Oh, okay.
essentially, imagine, if you will, a a a cubed, or sorry, a square, a bar that has
Hmm.
been pointed at the end.
Okay.
Um, Two reasons, and this is kind of important.
Hmm.
I'm glad that I don't do the tetrahedral shape because I can't imagine someone stepping on that.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the plastics ones are bad enough, but the
Hmm.
steel one might actually penetrate the flesh
Yeah.
and, or, probably even your shoe and straight to your
Yeah.
foot.
Right.
And it's steel, it's
Yeah.
iron.
Hmm.
So, if you're not up on your tetanus shots, then
Ah,
that could. So, to
trouble a bit.
forego that entire liability, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even try. I
Neat.
mean, I might just for myself at one point, just
I
to say
see.
that I did it. But as of right now, no, it's going to be the prism shape.
Hmm. Okay, neat. And you use different types of metal for that, or is there a particular type that you prefer?
I get my steel from a steel supplier that's kind of local to me, and
Okay.
they I don't really have like a preference. I've worked with titanium. I've worked with different types of steel. I have a actually my personal one is made out of a ball bearing, which
A rip.
has been hardened, so
Hmm.
it's almost you can't break that. There's no way you can in steel in general you're not gonna break, right? But in the case of my ball bearing D20, you're gonna have a hard time even denting it with the hammer
Wow.
after it's been hardened. So your hammer is most likely to break
That's
because
fantastic.
it's not as hard of a steel. It doesn't get as hard as far as
Right.
like on the Rockwell count. But
Okay.
I typically go for a like a 1018 type of steel. It's cold roll steel,
Okay.
and it's easier to work with. The higher the carbon, the harder it is to work with. The more you have to put in,
Oh.
more effort you have to put into it.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's really neat. And what do you think, for any critters watching, of it seems that the Critical Role cast sort of has their little chant, their little saying now whenever they roll one of your dice. What do you think of
yeah.
that?
Honestly, I yes and it as much as I can on
Hmm.
Twitter. Or whether if I'm in the studio or not,
Hmm.
they give me a little jabs and whatnot. I enjoy it. It's part of the fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of been a little bit of a term of endearment, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, it's definitely a nod to the fact that they're at least rolling the dice, and that's really fun. I enjoy that. That's what I was hoping for. Just
Neat.
an addition to their dice pool.
Hmm.
And yeah, obviously Marisha loves doing it. She loves poking fun, and
Yeah.
it's all great. It's all good fun.
It seems
I
very
love it.
very affectionate when they say it.
Yeah, yeah.
I forget who I saw. I think I saw Laura use your dice first. But now constantly everyone's rolling your dice on the show now.
Hmm.
It's exciting.
Hmm.
Cool to have
Yeah,
that worked out.
Laura has a few words to say about my dice personally that she came up with before. It was
Oh,
great.
that's awesome. Um, now, I do want to touch back on Geek and Sundry and Team Human and all that in a bit here.
Hmm.
But I did want to ask, just for viewers that are interested, do you take commissions? And if so, where can people reach you or submit those requests?
Yeah, I do. I do. I take commissions.
Okay.
Not just dice too. So I can do just about
Oh,
anything under the sun. If you dream it, I can probably make it. Um,
nice.
given you're gonna have to realize that the larger the item is going to cost more.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you can reach me either through Twitter. I think I have my email there somewhere.
Okay.
I have a link on my Twitter to my Store Envy account, and
Ah,
it's
okay.
a Store Envy, and literally I'm Gil the Blogsmith just about everywhere on most social medias. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean you can find me in either avenue.
All right. I'll make sure we add that below too, just in case any viewers are interested in that.
Sure, great.
Nate. So more on Team Human and Critterdom. I mean, you're a very well known figure in both Team Human and the Critter community alike. How did you find these two communities?
Very good question. So actually, it turns out this goes back 5 years ago, maybe yeah, right around 5 years ago, when Geek and Sundry first became a thing,
Oh wow, okay.
and they had their forums on on geekandsundry.com and whatnot,
Hmm.
and someone I forget who it was exactly, but someone goes, hey, I'm on Twitter. If you don't mind, let's make a thread just for Twitter handles and whatnot, and
Oh.
post your Twitter handle. And we'll just talk to each other, and because obviously we all have the same, likes. We have the
Right.
similar interests, so let's chat. I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. So I threw mine in there, and almost immediately, 50 people. I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, I like that guy. Oh, yes, yeah, I know who they are. And we started
Neat.
talking almost Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever the subject was. I had something to say, and they had something to respond back, and that felt really really cool.
Yeah.
At a time when literally I had no followers except for I
Hmm.
think just my wife.
Neat, neat.
And so it was really cool to interact with all these people.
Ah.
Well, one time Comic Con came around, and the people that kind of found each other on Twitter
Mhm.
became known as Team Twitter. We were just the people that
Oh,
knew each
okay.
other's Twitter. Hey, let's find each other at Comic-Con, right?
Nice.
We went to Jolton Joe's that one year for one
Oh,
of the Geek and Sundry lounges that they had,
oh yeah.
and that was really cool to be a part of that.
Hmm.
Um, and over the years, though, it kind of like transformed. So the core group of Team Twitter, is still part of Team Human, and a
Mm-hmm.
few of those people, are critters and whatnot.
Ah, okay.
Now, fast forward a little bit, and the vlogger search, the vlogger
Oh.
initiative came out, and I applied.
Mm-hmm.
I got really far. There was, I think, a total of four tiers that you had to pass through.
Okay.
I got to the very, very last one. I
Mm-hmm.
was almost good to go,
Mm-hmm.
but I basically, everyone above
Just
me went through.
uh
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm not bitter, and I'm
yeah.
smiling because I lost out to a puppet. But
Oh no.
all the power to all them who did that.
Yeah.
So what happened was, so then you had the vloggers, right? You had that like core group of people who interacted with everyone else, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you had the people that didn't get through, and then you had those group of people. And we would interact with each other. Like, hey, we were the Ronin vloggers essentially.
Okay.
Sometimes we
Yeah.
still made vlogs. Like in my case, I continued to
Okay.
make the videos. I haven't made any in a long time, but I'm gonna get back into that.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah, I really need to. People have been begging me for more videos, so
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna go. I just gotta get all my ducks in order. I've got so many
Mm,
projects
I
in
bet.
line. But so then the vlogger people, the Ronins and the actual vloggers,
Mhm.
after that died out, um, the Felicia and Ryan had their
Hmm.
their inaugural Team Human stream where Human
Right.
became a thing.
Right.
And while I was not there for that, I was invited to become one of the initial people for the founders, essentially, of Team Human,
Nice.
because I was such a big part of the Team Human community.
Mm.
And yeah, I remember when it was literally just like 12 people in the Facebook group. And so after that, though,
Mhm.
after the first day of the Twitch channel even going live, I was
Oh.
modded,
Oh.
and we didn't know any of the commands. We didn't like we do now. We didn't have any kind of history. Now I used to be a moderator
Mhm.
for a forum, but
Mhm.
never anything that had the
Live. Yeah.
scroll up that fast.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't. I didn't even read what that guy said. I have no idea what happened.
Right?
I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah.
16,000 people the first day on
Amazing.
on the Twitch chat. So, and then Geek and Sundry revealed Critical Role, and
Mm.
I immediately became a fan. And then eventually, the critters became the thing,
Ah.
and you guys, the viewers, are now the critters. I'm like, sure, I'll take that too.
Mhm.
And so I've got all these little titles, I'm sure.
Nice.
Um, but yeah,
After your
it kind
name,
of
like
evolved. Yeah, it kind of evolved into different groups. But the best part about it, though, is
Mhm.
community. What you said
Yeah.
earlier, just that community.
Mm.
These people are a bunch of loving people. They help each other out. It is a tightly knit group, and I love that. I
Mhm.
absolutely love that. I adore that. In a world where the internet is kind of a shithole, to be honest,
Yeah.
we're that one little beacon,
Yeah.
that little bastion of hope.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, absolutely. I'm so proud to be a critter, proud to be part of Team Human, and
Awesome.
yeah.
That is great. Yeah. There's such a compassionate and supportive group,
Hmm.
for sure. Neat.
Hmm.
um, so we, as critters, we often see you on the Geek and Sundry set.
Hmm.
How did you come to connect with the cast and crew uh, in that show?
So, luckily, being part of the Vlogger Initiative had its perks, a little bit of perks.
Hmm.
One time, actually Zach asked me
Okay.
to be on Minds and Crafts,
Ah,
and
okay.
that was my first appearance on camera on the Geek Center channel.
Nice.
And he wanted someone that knew how to do a little bit of metalwork. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring my forge because, well,
Oh, right.
yeah, the fire hazards abound, and in a studio where literally almost everything can catch on fire, there were issues. So
Yeah.
he knew that, and I knew that going forward. So I
Mhm.
mentioned, well, what about making a chainmail dice bag?
Hmm.
And he goes, "That's a great idea. That'd be actually really a lot of fun." I'm like, "Cool, awesome." I brought my chain links and whatnot, and
Mm.
I had no idea what I was expecting. And it ended up kind of devolving into a little bit of a fight between Ryan and Jessica, and
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun though. I had a lot of
Neat. Good. All right. That's cool. um, and somewhat, I don't know if it's specific to Critical Role, but I know I've seen you cosplay as Gilmore, which is
fun.
an amazing. You did an
Hmm.
amazing job with it. I love it.
Thank you.
Um, now, did you do that just completely from scratch?
So here's the funny thing. It's not so much from scratch as it was pieced together, but I had to go find the robe and the various accoutrements.
Hmm.
I found a belt and I found the shoes at a thrift shop. I ordered a Victoria's Secret robe, the purple
Oh, okay.
robe.
Huh. That's interesting.
um,
Yeah, neat.
and the jewelry, I just used my own rings that I made.
Oh, okay.
I did. The only thing that I can say that I did make were the wands. I
Oh.
forged these pretty decent sized wands, about that big or so,
Hmm.
just for the purpose of cosplaying for Gilmore, and I had a lot of fun doing
Nice.
that.
I bet that sounds cool. um, now you mentioned before that you were able to meet up with some of the folks from the community
Hmm.
early on. Do you get to do that regularly at cons and such, or?
Sometimes, yeah. The first time I actually ever really truly met like the critters and whatnot
Mhm.
were at San Diego Comic Con 2 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kimmy actually first met me there,
Oh, neat.
and she was trying to figure out, where she'd seen me before, and she finally, connected. Like, oh yeah. So we, and the few of the people, the team Human, we were still mainly, largely Team Human at the time.
Mhm.
Were oh, we're also fans of Critical Role. Well, let's just go to the panel. Let's go to the signing. Let's go to this and that and whatnot.
Right.
And through that, we're like, hey, you guys are on Twitter, cool. We'll follow each other. We'll keep we'll keep in track of each other and whatnot.
Yeah.
And there are some times when I've been to conventions like Anime Expo and
Okay.
WonderCon and
Ah.
Stanley's Comikaze. All of those I've either met new people
Mhm.
that love Critical Role or old friends essentially. And
Nice.
so it's really really cool to be a part of that and just whether it's cosplaying or just a meetup.
I
Um,
see.
we actually intend to meet up for WonderCon this year because of
Okay.
the Talks Machina live show that they're doing
Oh,
on
really?
April
Ah.
the 1st, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So keep if you're heading there, critters, check it out on Twitter and see if you can get involved in
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Neat. Um, now you seem super busy with so many different projects. But
Yes.
I've got to ask, do you have any projects on the horizon? Anything new you're looking
I
forward to?
do. I have several huge projects actually.
Oh.
I'm currently building a table for essentially an RPG show that I'm going to be DMing for.
Nice.
Um, I've been working really hard on this project. I've been getting everything essentially just organized, and
Hmm.
my mind is a mess right now, and I have to write things out. Normally, my mind is pretty clear,
Hmm.
and I it's kind of like a trap, but
Nice.
I'm horrible with names and directions, and now I've started to kind of like, well, now I forget where I put that one object. Like, oh crap. All right, fine. Let me
Right.
just go ahead and write this down, and
Hmm.
hopefully that'll help me keep on track. And it's been helpful, but there's a few things that I still forget to write down. So,
Ah, okay.
but yeah, huge projects. That was is my largest one right now. I'm going to obviously get back into filmmaking, so I'm going to be making
Oh,
more videos for the Vlogsmith for my YouTube channel.
cool.
Um, just essentially, helping people out who want to learn about it or just,
Hmm.
be entertained from watching a guy strike some hot steel. You
Sure.
know.
Yeah, like you said, that looks really cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
uh, Neat. Um, all right. Yeah, I can't wait to see. So again, viewers, if you're not following Gil already, follow him so you can, stay up to date on this stuff. But the show there, the RPG show, sounds really cool
Hmm.
as well.
Yep. It's going to be on Sunday, I think.
Oh,
So,
okay.
cool. not interfering with anyone else's schedule. And
Gotcha. I think that'd be nice to have something, a break. Like you need that fix, that RPG fix in the on the weekend.
right, kind of like your show too, right?
Oh
On
yeah,
Saturdays.
yeah, yeah. I've got it on Saturday. Yeah, it's nice to have sort of a something to do in the meantime.
Yeah.
Um, so this is sort of the segment of the show where I get to ask some silly-ish questions, just to kind of get to know you a little bit better in a fun way.
Shoot.
Cool. All right. First one up. What were you like as a teenager?
Huh. Rebellious, I think, is the best word. I, I think I'm still kind of a speed demon in my car, but
Hmm.
when I was younger, I definitely, I pushed the red line far too often. Um, I'd like to think that I've calmed down about
Neat.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I was bullied often, as most of our kind, I guess, if you want to call it that,
Hmm.
have been. And because of that, I got into a lot of fights. But luckily, I took several kung fu classes, and
oh, nice.
the confidence that comes from taking a class like that
Hmm.
is not so much that, oh, I can beat that guy up. No,
Hmm.
you have a completely different mindset. You
Hmm.
go, I know how to defend myself.
Hmm.
So you walk around, with your chest out, essentially. You're like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you come at me with, I know how to take care of you.
Hmm.
And it's that initial. It's you're projecting that out into the universe. That, oh, I don't think you can actually do any kind of harm to me.
Hmm.
And they see that, they feel that,
Yeah.
whether it's subconscious or not, I don't know, but they can feel that. And
Nice.
my life kind of did a 180 after that point. And
Nice.
luckily, the confidence that I gained from that helps me with other stuff too. I had stage
Ah,
fright. I had a lot of
okay.
other different
Really?
things, but then I wanted to go into filmmaking. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to be in filmmaking, I might be in front of the camera.
Hmm.
Oh crap! All right, well, let me go ahead and tear down these walls. And
Nice.
I had help. I definitely had help.
Okay.
But I think I'm in a pretty decent spot now. I can go in front of a large audience and in front of the camera and not be,
Yeah. Hyperventilating and I know
yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah, that. Neat. Well, that's
Yeah,
great.
handshaking, which
Yeah.
you probably might still see, but I'll just, clench my
Neat. Out
hands.
of off frame. Yeah. Neat. All right. Let's see. What's the craziest, wildest thing that's happened to you recently?
Recently, I was almost involved in a car accident
Oh
on
wow.
a rainy freeway. Luckily, no one got hurt. No one even got into the actual accident, but a guy basically hydroplaned out in front of me and began spinning. And I knew better than to lock up my brakes, so I'm like, cool, I'll just try to ride this out and I'll try to like basically maneuver and avoid it. I
Mhm.
stopped pushing on the gas pedal.
Mhm.
But watching everything kind of unfold in front of me, the other guy basically, the car in front of me began to spin out also because he locked on his brakes and he basically hydroplaned also.
Wow.
And I'm trying to maneuver my car in between all this chaos, right? And the
Yikes.
car behind me slams on his brakes because I'm letting off the gas too, and like he didn't
Mhm.
realize what was going on in front of me. And so I'm watching this car behind me go, like also like, oh crap, like what's this gonna happen? Like,
Oh.
and I'm like, well, here, this is what it is.
Yep.
Let's see how this plays out. And I think I think there's maybe like one or two fender benders, but everyone just pretty much stopped. The freeway stopped, and
Wow.
everyone was basically righted their way and just went on. I don't think anyone even like, no, I'm not going to get out, not
Not.
in this pouring rain. So
Yeah.
just go for it.
Oh.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, that was a little scary.
Yeah.
And so funny that it kind of ties back into what I was saying earlier about
Oh.
me being a speed demon. I now drive a little bit slower
Nice.
after that event.
That's great. Oh well, yeah. I'm glad you made it through there safely and everyone did. Wow, that sounds slightly terrifying. What is it about the Critter and Team Human community that you enjoy most?
the the Team Human and the critter community are just a wonderful group of people. They
Mm,
have true compassion towards each other. They help each out
yeah.
in when someone has a crisis or is just feeling down, people rush in and help them up.
Mm,
That is just an amazing thing to be a part of. Like I
Yeah.
was mentioning before, the internet can be a cruel place, and the real world too.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to have someone there to listen, or even if it's just a simple, "Hey, I'm here thinking about you."
Mhm.
Internet hugs, that means a whole lot to these people.
Absolutely.
So, I just love this community. Yeah.
Neat. Go Team Human and Critters. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that's all the time we have today on Mortal to Mortal. But Gil, thank you so much again for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, absolutely. As we wrap up, do you have anything, any thoughts, or anything messages you want to leave the viewers with?
Just be good to each other. You guys are wonderful. Just keep doing what you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching, and we will catch you again next time. Bye.
Bye.